Subscribe to Books on Toast, otherwise you're gonna get busted.
Hello and welcome to the Books on Toast channel.
My name is Anuya.
I'm Sharon
And I'm Vivaan.
this
And
guy.
The book is called Living Hell.
You may also have seen Vivaan in some movies, but you know what? I'm going to let him talk about that. Vivaan, introduce yourself to our viewers.
I have acted in various plays and movies and have recently just written a novel. And I've also always been a fan of a sort of classic horror and detective fiction and science fiction, and have tried to take a crack at various genres. I think the first thing I ever tried to get published was back in 2015-16, which is a book of horror short stories which I had written, which were very much influenced by the people like Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, various people, authors whose works I had staged right here, in fact, at the Cuckoo Club also.
Wow.
In a play called Comedy of Horrors. So it's quite interesting that I'm right back here talking about these guys again. I wanted to take a crack at writing a genre novel. A genre novel, in this particular case, the sort of hard-boiled pulp genre, the crime fiction of the 40s and 50s, people like Raymond Chandler, Dashiell, Hammett, you know, all these guys. They were very very interesting and also sort of marginal figures in the literary scene.
Yeah.
Like because
crime is not literature.
not high literature, but it was also the kind of stuff that was sold at railway stations.
Yes.
And you guys know the etymology of the word pulp?
Why?
It's because the paper that they used to use was very low quality paper. So it was the kind of thing you could like put in your back pocket and go riding on the train and not care about whether it'll get folded or crushed. It's also the kind of literature that you probably don't want to be caught reading.
Watching, I'm saying, reading.
Reading.
Kya ho gaya mere dimag ko?
So
Netflix.
that's why it was always very subversive literature.
So is that why you chose this genre for?
That's why
because
I chose
you love it.
Because I love it,
And
and
you were
also
inspired by
I was
all
inspired by the classical crime authors, and also the Bombaya setting,
Yeah.
the milieu of the Bombay underworld, and in especial the Mia Bhai underworld, which is a very sort of fertile ground for fiction, as we all know.
Let's talk a little bit more about Living Hell.
Yeah.
Tell
So,
us what it's about.
it's about this person called Nadeem Chipkali, who's a tipper, who's a sort of police informant, and once you get caught by the cops and especially someone who's in the underworld, it's a vicious cycle. They'd only let you go if you rat on somebody from your own gang. So then you kind of go onto their payroll and they're kind of taking care of you, and it's like a mutual parasitic relationship. This guy discovers a dead body in his own building, and he's counted as the prime suspect, and he has to sort of investigate this crime to get himself out of this jam that he's got.
What I used to really like about reading Agatha Christie was like the scene in the end, you know, because it
The
was still
revelation.
British
Aha.
aristocracy,
Yeah.
and she would gather everybody, and
The
she's like,
counts and-
"Oh, and let me tell you how I solved this crime."
But she initiated that, right? She started
Correct.
that.
She was the
that
first one
I
to
will
do it.
explain everything.
And then
At the
I saw
end,
it in
There'll be a
Remington
message in
Steele.
a bottle of
There'll be a
whatever. Yeah, you know. And then that's how you'll know.
And
Exactly.
it was always set amongst the aristocracy, so you
Yeah.
always have these counts and dukes and duchesses.
Yeah.
Very
But
interesting
She
character.
herself was upper middle class. So, I mean,
Yeah.
she'll write what she knows.
Correct,
So,
correct,
yeah.
correct.
So I was reading this book about Agatha Christie, the Agatha Christie biography, which is I think
By whom?
way more interesting. I forgot the name. It'll be in the description. Don't worry.
Did you guys know that she disappeared for?
Yes, I was just going to talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
she
She
disappeared.
had a fight with her husband where she
Husband.
realized that he was cheating on her. And then she went missing. She went missing for good 10-12 days.
And she was found in a spa of some sort. Am I
She
right?
she had committed herself to an institute.
To an institute, like
Yes.
a sanitarium kind
Like
of
a
thing.
sanitarium.
Yeah, correct,
And
correct.
so she, like her, and this
So
was
basically,
in
her
South
life
Africa.
was gone girl.
No,
Pretty
so
much.
she, and also
This journalist
later,
went looking for her.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, in fact, had contacted a medium spirit, like to find her. Like it's damn interesting, okay? And then she basically knew that she was going to do this, and then there was this whole conspiracy about did she do it because she wanted her husband to feel
It's
guilt.
gone
for all of
girl.
that. Yeah, and then she was trying to orchestrate because she left her car. So she drove out and she abandoned her car, in which there was found missing papers of like the car, but her expired driving license. And she made it seem like she was kidnapped and the car was in a battered state. It was insane, okay? So 10 days she did this. Even the home minister at that time had offered like some big award to find her. This is 1926, okay, December.
Correct.
And then she was found, and the name that she had used to commit herself, the last name was the same name as the mistress of the husband, Neil. And she was like,
okay,
whoa.
okay.
And during that time was the time when she wrote some of her romances as
Under a
Mary
pseudonym,
Westham,
na? Under
Westham
a
account.
Under
So
pseudonym,
there is this whole like dichotomy, and so I mean like people have spoken about like various things why she would have done it. Some people say that it's because of her husband. Some people say because there was so much literary pressure that she put on herself for output because she wrote like
So much.
voraciously, right? She's a prolific
prolific
writer,
output.
and just the
Huge,
pressure of that, and also the fact that she was unhappy and all of that took a toll.
That
So I'm
could be
like,
one
oh.
theory. The other theory is that maybe she was actually trying to plot a crime and see other people solve it as a prank, you know, almost to get back at her husband. Something. It could have been that also.
Okay, so let's talk about Edgar Allan Poe. Let's go
Yeah.
all the way back.
Yeah.
Like, talk about
He
his
was-
influence in your life.
You know, he was actually the first person that basically made me really fall in love with words. And I used to
Words.
read his stuff the way you listen to music. You know, the way you listen to a song that you like, you put it on and you just listen to it. I used to read his paragraphs just like that.
So for some people who are, you know, watching this and want to read Poe, what should be the first 2 books that they should read?
You should check out the only long form work that Poe ever wrote is this thing called the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, which is about an expedition to the South Pole.
Yeah,
which
me
is
neither.
pretty crazy.
What is yeah.
It's then you
Kahan
should
poach
check
gaya?
out if you kahan poach gaya. If you there's this story of his called The System of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather, which we performed actually in Comedy of Horrors. It's about a mental institution. There's one of his
These
called
are his short stories.
these are his
Yeah.
short
Okay.
stories. There's one called The Man That Was. I'm telling you guys, all there's slightly more obscure ones. Of course, House of Usher and Telltale Heart and all those everyone will tell you, but the slightly more the weirder ones, the crazier
Body,
ones are
actor, writer, kids.
Yeah,
Everyone.
stuff like A Tale of the Ragged Mountains. There's some really weird titles also. And so he was
So poetic. The titles are like everything, man. Seriously.
I think Durjoy must have been inspired by it.
So mad. So when did you, like, if you're talking about crime fiction, do you remember the first crime fiction that you picked up and you went, wow,
the
this
first
is amazing?
crime fiction. There's this author called Jim Thompson who used to write what is known as redneck literature. So he used to write these stories about like small
Trump's
towns.
life?
Well, this is before.
That's orange neck literature.
That's like that's really red. That's like blood redneck.
Mexican blood. Sorry.
This was I don't know, like 50s small town Texas kind of
Oh,
literature
wow.
about. He used to write about these small town sheriffs, and he used to write in this very southern vernacular or this Texan vernacular. They used to be all first person narratives. And the first time I read his book, The Killer Inside Me, which he used to write for Kubrick. He wrote a couple of Kubrick's movies in the early days. And Kubrick said about this book that it's the most chilling first-person account of a criminally warped mind.
Wow.
And so that book really blew my socks off. And that was when I realized that this crime fiction is almost, I mean, like Jim Thompson was known as dime store Dostoevsky.
Sharon,
Then
what
you just
about
can't
you?
stop.
I am very
Your
old.
first-
My
Your
first are very, very
crime
old.
novel?
First crime novel?
Yeah.
It was short stories.
After this,
of
we'll talk
her-
about
her-
your first crime also. But continue.
Thanks. I mean, I'm very old. I read Agatha Christie a lot.
Before that, probably
Listen,
Blighted.
she wrote in the 1930s. Okay, everyone who's read Agatha Christie is old now. I mean, there's.
I
It
wish.
is true.
I wish I
Well,
was
she
around.
wrote till 1976.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's when she. Oh, so she her last 2 books were published posthumously,
Okay.
and they were based on her 2 most famous characters, Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. The Hercule Poirot book was called Curtain, and the Miss Marple book was called
Drapes.
The Mysterious Affair at Styles. So she had written both these books in the 30s, and then she locked them in like some locker and be like, "Isko
They got
kabhi."
discovered later.
No. She had put this in her will. When I die, there is this locker in this bank. You open it and then you publish it. So she gave homework to people after she died. But anyway, I used to love Agatha Christie only because they were so easy to read. They were very pacey, and I mostly read all of this during exam season because I didn't want to study. That was the real crime.
Yeah.
So
Sharon failed.
It was enough to
Agatha
read
Christie's
during
fault.
exam season.
I was like, I'm in my books. I used to hide one Agatha Christie thin novel. Be like, oh. So,
Yeah, and they were all always very
yeah,
short.
they were
like,
very simple stories. So
I think that's an interesting segue to talk about Dashiell Hammett because
Dashiell
I think
Hammett.
that's the most popular name.
He was
in modern times.
his
Yeah.
book Red Harvest
Yeah.
Red
is
Harvest.
considered like the Bible, and he used to have crazy words like "What's the rumpus?" He used to like
What's the rumpus?
What's the rumpus? then all these kinds of like crazy. The slang of Dashiell Hammett was where do you flop, like those kinds of
Where
things.
do you flap?
And
Yeah.
so the Dashiell Hammett, the Red Harvest, is I think the basis of all gangster stories. It's like a sort of Bible. It's about two rival gangs and about how one lone gunman kind of infiltrates both gangs and plays them against each other. So Red Harvest is...
Red Harvest also became a movie, right?
So Red Harvest has
Yes.
been made multiple times.
Yeah.
So Yojimbo by Kurosawa was the first adaptation of Red Harvest, and then the Clint Eastwood Dollars trilogy, Fistful of Dollars, which was a remake of Yojimbo. That was also Red Harvest.
Oh.
And then the most famous one
Miller's
is,
Crossing.
Maltese Falcon.
Maltese Falcon.
Falcon,
That is
man.
beautiful.
That's the one everybody
That's
has
the
heard of.
Bogart one also, yeah.
Why? So someone who has never picked up noir as a genre, for them I feel like Maltese Falcon
a great place
is
to
a
start.
great place to start. And of course, you have to make concessions for the time that it was written in because it's incredibly sexist.
Yeah.
But
A
all
lot
the
of
language
this-
is really
no,
simple.
a lot of the, well, there was, you could say that these people weren't the most evolved people when it came to gender relations.
No, not at all.
And they had a very narrow-minded sort of
Yes.
view. It was,
all the women are sweetheart and darling.
They're all double-crossing
they're all-
dames.
But
yes,
they're back to the
they're
gangster
all,
vibe,
they're all
no?
that typical
mall.
femme fatale,
Femme fatale, correct,
that has
correct,
been
correct,
written to gratify a man, and you
Correct,
have to
correct,
forgive
correct.
that
You
because
have
it
to
was
forgive
written
that,
in
yeah.
that time. But read it as a study, A, of the time, B, of the kind of writing that was popular in that time, and also C, it's just a damn good
The humor,
mystery.
yeah.
And it's funny.
It's damn good, and
Yeah.
and the character is something that you aren't accustomed to now. Then you weren't. Now maybe you've seen variations.
Yeah.
But it's also what I realized when I was reading the book was that it's very cinematic. It was like he wrote it to be so that it could be turned into, because
Completely.
it boils down to like descriptions of cigarettes in ashtrays,
Cigarettes and ashtrays and
and
that
what
sort
the
of stuff.
lamp was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and you visualize it completely. Tell our viewers what Maltese Falcon is all about.
Maltese Falcon is about this bird, which is sort of the Knights of Malta, which I'm forgetting the exact mythology, like the whole history behind it, but so Sam Spade has to basically
He's the
battle.
detective. He's
He's
the
the
lead
detective
detective.
who has to. His partner gets killed, and then after that he has to sort of go and investigate what is Maltese Falcon, and this Maltese Falcon is like a sort of mythical kind of figure.
Figurine. Why do
Famous
we
Five
love
also,
Famous Five?
Enid Blyton.
Yeah.
Why do we like Nancy Drew?
Why do we
Nancy
like
Drew, all
Nancy
these
Drew?
two,
We are all, we love
Solving-
crime.
we love solving crime also.
because it's the genre that involves us.
Yeah.
Exactly,
From the
exactly.
beginning.
It's a more participative thing
Yes.
for the
Also,
reader.
it really satiates your imagination, your appetite to read more. I
Because-
think when you get into it.
You get
No,
hooked.
it's also because we as human beings can't cross certain moral, ethical lines,
correct.
and we are always wondering what will happen.
Vicariously
Why,
live through-
yeah,
yeah.
if we do, and that is the id telling
Yes,
us,
correct.
giving us.
That's actually
Yeah,
true.
you're satisfying your
That's true.
id by reading crime novels, and that's why we love crime novels and crime documentaries and crime movies and serial
So
killers.
there's a sort of morality aspect to that as well.
Freud.
Is that Freud? But again, no, there is a morality aspect to the sort of to crime being a study of morality. Of in the old days, I mean, in the 30s and 40s, it was almost like to teach the citizens a lesson that
Yeah.
this is what will happen to you if you rob a
if you
bank.
cross the line.
This is what will happen to you if
Yeah.
you shoot somebody. This
It
is,
never
you know,
ends well, hence.
It's almost like a cautionary tale. Don't become a criminal.
Like none of these guys get away with it.
They don't get
Everything
away with it.
eventually gets solved.
But that was the
Scooby-Doo
censorship
also
code.
taught us
Yeah.
that.
That was Scooby-Doo taught us that. I think the first morality tale was Scooby-Doo. That's a
I
very
would have
interesting.
gotten away with it if it wasn't for these meddling kids.
They always said that at the end of
They
the
always
episode.
said that at the end.
If you look at it from almost like a graphic novel visual point of view, the iconography comes from German expressionism, the 20s, like the figure of the
Guys,
Joker.
ये बहुत smart है. ये
No,
मैं
no,
क्या
no.
बोल रहा हूँ मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. ये मैं पढ़ाई
No,
करनी
we're trying to
चाहिए
trace
थी.
it back to like
पढ़ाई
the
करनी चाहिए थी.
Etymology
इतना
has been
vodka नहीं
discussed.
पीती तो आज ये दिन नहीं देखना पड़ता. Continue.
no, the sort of then you go. I think all this culminates into Batman. I guess that was
Yeah,
the
this
ultimate
Arkham Asylum.
apotheosis of this whole movement was all shadows and lights. It all culminated into Batman, who was the sort of winged avenger. And Batman's figure also comes from the sort of German tradition of the more grotesque literature and also cinema of that time. Like there's the Joker comes from, Bob Kane was inspired by this film called The Man Who Laughs, which is about this court jester who's whose kind of face has been carved, a smile has been carved onto his face, and this was apparently like how Poe was the genesis of Holmes. This was the genesis of the Joker, and so you can trace the lineage
Wow,
of
it's
all
amazing,
crime fiction.
right? Like I have random Sherlock Holmes trivia for you. Are you ready?
Tell.
Yeah.
So Sherlock Holmes is the only literary character to have a Guinness Book of World Record entry for being the character that's been adapted the most in film and TV.
Oh.
254 times, which has
Wow.
only been trumped by Dracula.
Correct.
That has been adapted 272 times, but across literature.
Correct.
That's all I have to say.
Which is your
What is-
favorite Sherlock Holmes?
Oh, The Hound of Baskervilles.
I just want to talk about my favorite crime novel.
Which is your favorite?
You know this. It changed my life.
Which one?
It's Truman Capote's In Cold Blood.
Oh damn!
That book
is
I can read that. I can recommend that book every day, twice every day,
that is.
and thrice
Morning,
on
evening?
Sunday. Yeah,
That,
all the time.
But the story of that is, I mean, that's a pathological study.
Yeah.
That is basically studying why these two people,
Why people do what
Perry
they do.
Smith and Luke.
Dick Hickok.
Dick Hickok and Perry Smith. Why these guys did this? Why two
So
clean cut? I mean, normal.
Not really, but
Not
they
really.
were
I mean, they
criminals.
were. This is the thing is they belong to the lower strata of
yeah,
society.
they were criminals, and they have. So there are some other unsolved murders that
That
could
they've
have been
also-
done. Yeah, could have
Acha.
been done by them. Yeah, so it wasn't like that.
Correct.
So little context for this book. It's written by Truman Capote, and it created the genre of the non-fiction novel.
Non-fiction novel.
And it's the second most popular true crime book behind Helter Skelter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so second ever
Nice.
written. And he was very disappointed that it didn't win the Pulitzer, but apparently there were differing opinions on some facts.
whether he was
yeah.
too sympathetic or something
Yeah,
to the killers. Yeah.
But so if you see the movie,
The
so
Clutter family-
Now the whole story was that there was a murder in 1964.
In Kansas.
I think in Kansas.
The Clutter family,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Clutter family, where the
entire
father,
family was
mother, and two kids.
the daughter and son. Both,
Were murdered by these two
Drifters.
drifters, ex-cons,
ex-cons.
called
Perry Smith and Dick
Dick Hickok. And luckily, and so he read the newspaper story, and then he went to investigate it with his best friend Harper Lee.
Oh.
Yeah, and they spent 4 years asking people questions
Oh,
and
really?
gathering data, and and then he came back and then he
That's
wrote it,
amazing.
and luckily for him, they got caught. So he
Oh,
then
yeah.
went and interviewed them extensively,
Wow.
and the theory is that he was sort of in love with.
He became very
To
close
Perry
to
Smith.
Perry Smith.
Yeah.
He was gay, no?
Yeah,
Truman Capote.
Truman Capote was gay. Yeah. So the story is that he formed a really close bond with it, and let me tell you, that book will really fuck with your hand because
yeah. It
because
is a very
you
disturbing
get an empathetic towards the killers,
This
and you
is
find
like a
yourself
great
just
device.
torn,
Perfect
torn
device.
between. You really feel sorry for what they go through after they are caught.
There's this scary line in that which Perry Smith says that, I thought Mr. Clutter was a very nice man until
Yeah.
I slit his throat.
Yeah.
That's the line from the...
Oh my God, that book.
I mean, it's a chilling study of the criminal mind
Yes.
and also why these guys committed this crime.
Yeah.
It's a complete mystery and no
Yeah.
amount of
Nobody knows.
Freudianizing.
No, so as far as I remember that they heard, so the story is that they heard someone talk about a lot of money being kept in Herb Clutter's safe. And while they were at prison, and so they went and they committed this crime in the hope of getting the money, and they got nothing. They got like $50 or something. That's what, from whatever I remember.
Yeah.
And so they just murdered for fun, like they just for nothing, and then they were caught because the guy who told them the story remembered telling them the story. So they were caught, and then there was some like 10 years of being on death row. I don't remember the years, but it was a really long time of them being on death row because it was appeal after appeal after appeal, and then eventually, of course, they were hanged. But even the movie is
is
superb.
fantastic.
It's superb. I mean,
with Robert Blake,
won-
the black and white.
Yeah.
yeah.
No. I'm talking about the
new
Capote
one.
movie.
Oh, the Capote
with
movie, they
Philip
explore
Seymour.
that. I
Yes.
haven't seen that.
So that movie is about him writing this book.
I haven't seen that. But
And
I've
he
seen
won
the
an
movie
Oscar.
I've seen the movie of
Of
In Cold Blood.
Oh,
That's
I
an
haven't
old
seen
black
that.
and white
Yeah,
movie
I
from
haven't seen that.
'67. It's a very good movie. You should check it out.
Any other authors you guys want to talk about?
But so
Let's do some book recommendation. Okay?
Some book recommendations.
Go into the
okay.
books.
Okay, so I would suggest let's get to like contemporary stuff, also slightly recent stuff. There's this author by the name of Ankush Saikia. Have you guys read his works?
No.
So he was a fantastic. He's basically I read his stuff while after I had written it and while I was writing it. He was a big source of inspiration. He's someone who writes. He has a detective called Arjun Arora. who's set he's in Delhi. So he kind of investigates and sort of infiltrates the sort of underbelly of Delhi. And the way he writes, the way Ankush Saikia writes about the underbelly of Delhi is just beautiful. I mean, that's really what I tried to do with Bombay, in a sense, is the sort of, to really get into the sort of the gutter aesthetic. You know, and because if you look at the urban sort of hellscape, as it were, it is a kind of apocalyptic landscape almost. And so to evoke that and even the cover, I think Devangna Das did a fantastic job with evoking the sort of urban hell that the book is about. And so Ankush Saikia is a very interesting writer who's worked
Indian crime
writer from the Northeast whose works you must
Guys,
check
have
out.
you read Feluda?
Of course. Speaking of Feluda,
Feluda,
no crime conversation
Is
is
complete
complete
without
without
Feluda.
Feluda.
Yeah.
Feluda is the great, he's the legend.
There is a series called Muzaffar Jung,
Muzaffar
which
Jung.
is a detective set in the times of Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb,
Wow.
Shah Jahan,
Mughal
Mughal era, named Muzaffar Jung, written by this author named Madhulika Little.
Acha.
And it's basically him solving crime in every book,
Okay.
but set
Set
in that
in
time.
the
Yeah,
Set
in
in that
Delhi,
time.
in Delhi, in Mughal era. So
Wow,
I have yet to pick up.
transportive.
Yeah.
It's like a medieval mystery almost.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm yet to pick up, read one of her books,
Wow.
but this is something that has.
I've heard about
like,
this
I've
one.
been
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
like I've been
Interesting.
fascinated by it for a while. Like, okay, let's check this out. This sounds fun. So
There's a lot of great stuff happening in the literary scene.
Then there is the Anantya Tantra series that we spoke about. She's a tantric detective.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
She's a
quite
tantric
crazy. It's
detective.
very nuts, very feminist, really fun. So author named Shweta Taneja.
So she's almost like a psychic detective.
No, she just has superpowers.
She has
in
superpowers, damn.
she has like
Or does
magic.
she blame it
yeah.
on superpowers,
Acha.
but she's just very good at solving crime?
No,
Which
no,
one?
it's tantric
Possibly.
magic. So it's there's magic and there's
Magic
but there's
and crime.
a
It's a
crime at the
supernatural
heart of
detective thriller.
there's a crime at the heart of every. I mean now crime is sort of breaking genres, right? Like that's the next step. Any final recommendations?
Final book
Let's
recommendations?
do Patricia Highsmith.
Patricia Highsmith, I would say The Talented Mr. Ripley, of course, which everyone
Oh
knows.
my
Most
god,
famous
That's
what
the
a
most
great book,
famous.
what a
That's-
great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
High notes, high
Hey,
notes.
she also Strangers on a Train, both
Strangers on a
movies
Train.
and
Hitchcock.
the movie, Hitchcock movie and the book also, the novel by Patricia Highsmith. A couple of Indian authors, Surendra Mohan Pathak.
Yeah, very famous.
Wow.
35
Vimal,
lakh
his
ki
Vimal
daketi.
series. Yeah. I mean,
They're
if
very
you,
crazy titles.
he's written a series of books about a detective called Vimal.
Vimal,
right?
Vimal, yeah.
yeah, that's him. And there's another one where, is that the one where he's the gangster and anyways, he's very famous.
He's
I have
classic.
not read Hindi literature, of course, but I've only heard about him.
He's
But
very interesting.
All right,
Okay.
this brings
All
us
right,
to
this brings
our
us to the game.
clickbait round.
Yay, clickbait round. So, to borrow from Jimmy Fallon's very, very wide lexicon of games,
Yeah.
we have stolen his game called True Confessions. So, the game rules are very simple. Each one of us has written a confession on a piece of paper which is in front of us. So, one by one, we will pick it up. It could be real or made up. It is the job of the other two people to interrogate the first person for 60 seconds and then guess whether it was accurate or not.
Ready.
So, let us start with the guest.
What would you like to confess, Vivaan?
I have almost been arrested for impersonating another person.
Who was the person?
Someone older than me.
Okay.
Is it a person that you related to?
No.
When did this happen?
2010.
And where did it happen?
In Las Vegas.
Okay, what was the acha? And how did they catch you?
We were doing a makeup test and I went and played in makeup
Okay.
in a casino to test the makeup out, the prosthetics.
Okay.
And while I was playing, casino manager comes up to me and is like, "Can I see some ID, please?" And I'm sitting there with white hair and wrinkles and he's asking me for ID. And I was like,
Okay.
"1 sec, I'm just coming." And I ran. I sprinted from there. I could have got arrested.
Oh, and how old were you?
20, I was underage, that's the thing. So I wasn't allowed to be in the casino as I was playing in makeup.
Oh.
So, was this for a movie?
This was for a movie,
Which movie?
Khoon, Maaf,
Oh.
in which I was playing an old man. So I had this whole prosthetic thing on my face.
Were you? I've seen that movie. Now I don't remember. Oh no. Which one
So
is
we
it?
almost
What's
got
gonna happen?
arrested. A federal offense.
But Satkumar was not shot in LA.
No,
How
but we
did
went.
you-
Vegas.
No, but
I think you're telling the truth.
I think he's wrong.
You think
He's lying.
What
He's
is
lying.
it?
What is it?
It's the truth.
Oh my God! Okay, tell us the proper story now.
So
What
that's-
happened?
It's exactly like I said. We were doing a makeup test because the people who were doing the makeup were American. So we had to go over to them to do the makeup.
Okay.
And they put this entire cast and made me look like a 40. And I was 20. I was underage. So every time I'd set foot in the casino, they wouldn't let me in only. They'd eject me. Because I used to look like a kid also. And plus if they asked me for ID, I wouldn't be allowed. So they put me in this full white hair, this cast, white hair makeup, and I'm going and playing, and I started winning. The second I started winning, then the casino manager comes up to me like, "Can I see some ID?" If I'd have been losing, he'd have been, "Let me play, chal, who cares?" So then because I won like $30, $40, the guy comes up to me and he's like,
I thought he'd be like, then I want like 30-40 grand.
अरे
इसे
नहीं।
30-40 में आके बोल रहा है उसको।
नहीं रे,
ये Vegas वाले बहुत चिंदी होते हैं।
हाँ, वेगस में जाके चिंदी होना पड़ता है. So this thing, the guy came up to me and he was like, "Can I see some ID, please?" And I was like petrified. I thought I'm gonna go into jail. You can actually go to jail for playing in makeup. Because I wanted to test the makeup out, and like an idiot, I decided to do that bad decision.
Wow. Amazing.
It's okay, we've all done stupid
Being
things.
jailed abroad is probably not happy.
No.
Yeah,
But
then
then
you'll
you
be
would
like
have
a
written a
subject
book
matter.
there.
I would have read, oh damn, about the Nevada prison. Nevada State
In the middle
Correctional
of the
Facility.
Yeah.
Department of Correction
All
Facility.
right, who goes next?
And may I go?
Okay, I'll go next. Okay.
Okay. Confess.
I was once attacked by a kangaroo in a national park in Kuranda, Cairns. Though I wasn't hurt, I just got a scare.
When did you go to Kuranda, Cairns?
I went there last year for my mother's 60th birthday.
And are you aware that kangaroo sightings are very rare in Australia? Not
That's
everyone gets to see a
true,
kangaroo. No.
But I saw kangaroos everywhere I went. In all the national parks, there were kangaroos. I wouldn't say kangaroo. What is the wallaby?
Several
Wallaby,
eyewitness
yes,
accounts have said that the
yes,
kangaroos are endangered and it's very difficult to sight them.
That is not true because
It
I
is true.
saw many kangaroos.
And how near did the kangaroo come to you?
It came, so the fence was here, right? And I was here, and the kangaroo was here, and there was a wallaby here, and I was feeding the wallaby.
Are you aware that kangaroos can contract severe...
Herpes. I don't know, I just wanted to
Sorry,
say
what is your
herpes.
question? What? No. Yellow fever.
What?
Yellow fever.
No, it
your
didn't
turn.
break skin, so it's okay. I don't have yellow fever, or do I?
Your question.
My God, okay. This, what happened exactly? Like, how did it attack you?
So I was feeding a wallaby, and I thought the kangaroo was just like, whatever, coming close to see what was going on, and it was
Is it the truth?
I think it's the truth because I think she's told me the story before.
Yeah. See, this is cheating if you all know each other.
But
then
I
this
think,
game-
I'm not sure.
Okay, so both of you think it's the truth?
I think it's the truth.
It's false!
Didn't you tell me you were attacked by a kangaroo or something?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I just told you I went to Cairns.
Well, the wallaby story was like pretty sounded pretty authentic.
Unreliable narrator.
I told you kangaroo sightings are very rare in Australia. Not everyone gets to see a kangaroo.
Did you even see any kangaroo?
You guys are such
Did you see
gullible.
kangaroos?
Of course I saw kangaroos.
But it didn't attack you.
No. National parks have kangaroos.
Dude, the stupidest question I forgot to ask. Kangaroos do not attack. They are harmless creatures.
That's not true. I saw a video.
Kangaroos get attacked?
I'll tell you
They
how
attack?
I got inspired by this. I saw a video of a man who was paragliding and then he landed smoothly and then a kangaroo came and attacked him. This was yesterday, so I'm like, this is hilarious.
It's a kangaroo killed.
And he was like, oh, little kangaroo, motherfucker.
He probably pounced on
Oh
him.
my
Yeah,
God.
it was very funny. Ha ha ha.
Oh damn.
Fine,
Okay,
fine.
chalo na.
Okay. It's 1-1, basically.
1-1.
Okay, cool.
Basically, I have won, what won all? I have won both.
Even-
No, wait, Sharon won the first one.
Yeah, I won first round.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my confession is that in my time working as a film journalist, I got into a fist fight with Amir Khan's bouncer on the red
What?
carpet.
Holy shit. Are you serious?
Okay.
When was this?
2009.
Why did you get into a fist fight?
So it was basically the premiere of Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na, and there was like an army of bouncers that had chained, basically covered the entire red carpet. So mobility, if you were not famous, was very hard. And for some reason, I took the wrong elevator. So I wanted to go behind them to avoid the gaze, but this guy kept blocking my path. So eventually,
Did he attack you first or you attack him?
well, that I can't tell.
Oh, okay.
What's your question?
And how old were you?
I mean, I was 27.
Okay, and weren't you a music journalist and not a film journalist?
I was a film journalist also.
Acha, what
Pop culture
publication-
journalist,
what
Mail
Which
Today.
publication?
Mail Today.
Mail today.
And what were you doing at the screening? You were covering the Jaane Tu Ya
No,
Jaane
it
Na?
was just like, networking, whatever. When they invite you, you do one interview, they invite you for the screening.
And what was
I'm
the
like,
nature of the fist
What
fight?
was the nature of the fist fight?
meaning?
Did you
What
fight?
happened? Did you guys
Did
actually
get
punch
hurt?
each other?
Yeah.
Physically sock each
Well,
other?
it was like a little bit of a scuffle.
Ah.
She's lying.
I think she's lying.
So it's partly true.
She's lying!
There is part truth in
Part
it.
truth?
In the sense
There's
there
no
was
such
no
thing.
fist fight,
then it's
but
lying.
we did get into a really heated argument.
damn,
But
it
you
was
said
bouncer.
fist fight.
Escalating
Oh,
to a
boy.
level where it could have turned into something ugly
You
till
said
Amir
fist
Khan
fight.
had to turn around and intervene. So I was
Who
like,
said fist fight? So it's
Moral of the
false.
story, don't mess with
So I
bouncers.
win. I win this game.
hey,
I
I'm
win
part
this game.
two.
I win this game. I win this game.
No, we all won.
Shut up. I win. In detective novel, only one person
wins.
wins in the end, and that person is me.
Okay, fine. Okay, on that great note, thank you, Vivaan, for joining us.
This was an amazing episode,
Please-
Great
Vivaan.
episode, thank you.
Please
It was
pick
great.
up Living Hell. It is on bookstores. We'll add a link in the description box below. In fact, we will add all the links to the books that we discussed.
Yes.
And the audiobooks version of it in case you don't like reading the actual physical copy
Then you can
in the
listen.
description
Yes,
box
yes,
below. And please like, share, comment, subscribe, because what else is there in life if we want it to be heaven?
No, no, no.